Welcome to NTD News. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Here are today's top stories. Vice President Mike Pence slammed China for its human rights violations, spoke up for Hong Kong, and held up Taiwan's democracy as a better path for all Chinese people. House Republicans storm a secure facility in the Capitol, demanding to hear closed-door impeachment testimony. They say the secretive hearings allow House Democrats to control the narrative. Police discover all 39 people found dead in the back of a truck in England were Chinese. The driver is still answering questions from police. A highly anticipated exhibit on Leonardo da Vinci opens at the Louvre. Features paintings, sculptures, drawings, and letters. Marks 500 years since the artist's death. Vice President Mike Pence spoke today on the future of U.S.-China relations in Washington.
Under President Donald Trump's leadership, the United States is treating China's leaders exactly how the leaders of any great world power should be treated. With respect, yes, but also with consistency and candor. The United States now recognizes China as a strategic and economic rival. And I can attest firsthand, a strong majority of the American people in the city and on the farm are behind President Trump's clear-eyed vision of the U.S.-China relationship that don't give Beijing control of our most sensitive infrastructure and data as well.
A year after his targeted speech on China sent Beijing up in arms, Pence reiterated the Trump administration's criticism of the country. This amid hope for a partial trade deal with Beijing next month. Pence's speech was postponed by the White House in June, ahead of a meeting between Washington and Beijing aimed at getting trade talks back on track. President Trump has said he hopes to sign a phase 1 of a trade deal with China during next month's ASEAN summit. Maryland Democrat and Congressman Elijah Cummings will lie in state today at the U.S. Capitol.
Members of Congress packed the room, both sides of the aisle coming together to say goodbye to the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. This showing is one in a series of planned services, with the first held yesterday at a historically black college in his district in Baltimore. A formal memorial service will be held Thursday morning in Statuary Hall for members of Congress. After the service, there will be a viewing for the public. Cummings passed away last week at 68 years old. He represented Maryland's 7th District for over 20 years. His funeral will be held Friday at the New Psalmist Baptist Church in Baltimore. Former President Obama will deliver remarks at the event.
Several dozen House Republicans stormed a secure facility in the Capitol yesterday. They wanted to hear the closed-door testimony that House Democrats were holding as part of their impeachment investigation. NTD's Holly Kellum has the details.
House Republicans held a press conference before going down to the basement of the Capitol. There, 3 committees were hearing testimony from Laura Cooper, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia.
We demand open proceedings. The American people deserve nothing less. Their representatives in Congress deserve nothing less.
Republicans have complained for weeks that Democrats' impeachment investigation is happening behind closed doors. They charge Democrats are controlling the narrative of the proceedings with selective leaks to the press. Brooks said they stood outside the room and chanted, "Let us in," till a staffer opened the door. The staffer tried to tell them they couldn't, but they entered anyway.
When we came into the room, evidently they must be talking about stuff they don't want us all to know, because Chairman Schiff did not give his opening statement. He was getting prepared to do that. And, then he left the room.
He's talking about House Intel Chairman Adam Schiff, who was chairing the hearing. After Schiff left, the hearing ended. Schiff has reportedly threatened the Republicans, none of whom were on any of the 3 committees, with ethics violations. Some GOP members allegedly brought cell phones into the room, a violation of House rules. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy told Politico that some members have never been into the secure area before, implying they didn't know the rules. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
A federal judge today gave the State Department 30 days to hand over records on Ukraine. Some of the documents include communications between Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. The ruling comes after watchdog group American Oversight filed a Freedom of Information request. The government has said it doesn't yet know how many documents will be released. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg faced bipartisan hostile questions in a congressional hearing today. Lawmakers targeted the social media company's plans to launch its own cryptocurrency known as Libra.
Zuckerberg said he would not allow Facebook to move forward unless he got approval from all U.S. financial regulators. But members of the House Financial Services Committee were not convinced.
Different of these regulators focus on different areas, whether it's financial stability or fighting crimes and fraud and terrorism, but we're committed to getting all of the appropriate U.S. approvals.
Lawmakers from both parties and top regulators, including Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, have criticized Facebook's plan for Libra. They warn it could be used for illicit activities such as money laundering or drug trafficking. Zuckerberg is instead pushing an optimistic vision of Libra and what it could mean for people who don't have access to bank accounts. While the hearing zeroed in on the digital currency, the full range of Facebook's policies, conduct, and market dominance is attracting congressional attention.
Wildfires erupted in California last night amid warnings that more than 500,000 homes and businesses in California could lose power this week. By early morning, a Kincaid fire in Sonoma had grown to 7,000 acres, and more evacuations were ordered. No injuries have been reported. Sonoma County is popular with tourists visiting wine-producing areas. Evacuation warnings were issued before midnight in some communities as the wind-driven fires moved toward tourist towns, including Healdsburg. And some Californians have already had their power shut off as a precaution against the wildfires.
Record heat, high winds, and low humidity. That's a meteorological mixture that's prime for developing wildfires.
I think we are a little bit more prepared this time, knowing what may happen and how long it went last time.
Red flag warnings are in effect for more than 25 million people, and wind gusts could hit up to 65 miles per hour this week. Pacific Gas and Electric is cutting power to roughly 180,000 customers as a preventative measure.
I called my karaoke guy and one-leg Chuck, and I said, "Do you want to do this?" And he said, "I'm bringing a generator."
The fear is severe wind could brush trees into power lines or knock them down, starting a wildfire.
If PG&E would have maintained their equipment properly, rather than giving all their executives bonuses, we might not be in the situation we're in.
Some are frustrated with the utility company. A PG&E worker was targeted in Glenn County Wednesday.
Employee was driving a PG&E vehicle when a projectile hit the front passenger window. Our security team believes that projectile to be a pellet from a pellet gun.
The outages are not expected to be as widespread as they were earlier this month, when around 800,000 customers were left in the dark.
As long as you keep yourself cool, calm, and collected, it makes navigating it a whole lot easier.
The former U.S. Marine being detained in Moscow on espionage charges says his human rights are being violated. Speaking from a defendant's cage on Thursday, Whelan said a prison guard had forced him to his knees and that he had been threatened with a gun.
My human rights are being violated, my life threatened, medical issues are being denied, and my property stolen. No evidence of espionage has been provided, as it does not exist.
Whelan also showed a written message to reporters urging the international community to act decisively and support him. Whelan, who holds U.S., British, Canadian, and Irish passports, denies the espionage allegations. He says he was set up in a politically motivated sting. Meanwhile, a Moscow court has ordered Whelan to remain in jail until December 29th. Walmart is kicking off its holiday shopping season earlier this year. The retailer says it will launch its online deal drop sales on midnight Friday. That's in part due to the shorter than usual shopping season in 2019. There will be 6 fewer shopping days between Thanksgiving and Christmas than there was in 2018. UK police looking into the deaths of 39 people found in the back of a truck said today they were all Chinese. They continue to question the driver of the vehicle.
The 39 people found dead in the back of a truck near London were Chinese, police said on Thursday. 8 of the deceased are women, 31 are men. That as police continued to question the driver of the vehicle, who was detained on suspicion of murder. Paramedics and police found the bodies of 38 adults and one teenager early on Wednesday in a truck container on an industrial estate at Grays, about 32 kilometres east of the British capital. The driver, a 25-year-old man from Northern Ireland, is being held in custody. A source familiar with the investigation said he was Mo Robinson from Portadown in the British province. Police said on Thursday 3 properties in Northern Ireland were being searched as part of the investigation. The truck trailer arrived at Purfleet Docks in Essex, southern England, having travelled from the Belgian port of Zeebrugge. For years, illegal immigrants have attempted to reach Britain, stowed away in the back of trucks. In the year 2000, the bodies of 58 Chinese people were found crammed into a tomato truck at the southern port of Dover. The vehicle had begun its journey in Zeebrugge.
The European Parliament today awarded its top human rights prize to economist and Uyghur Ilham Tohti. It recognized him for his work defending China's Uyghur minority and urged Beijing to release him from jail.
49-year-old Tohti was an economics professor at Beijing's Minzu University, as well as a Uyghur rights advocate. He was known as a moderate who argued against Uyghur separatism but advocated for Uyghur human rights. He was convicted of fanning ethnic hatred, advocating violence and instigating terror through his teaching and a website on Uyghur issues. He has been in jail since 2014. I conveyed the voice of the Uyghur ethnicity to the government and promoted communication between Uyghur and Han ethnicities. China's foreign ministry responded by calling him a criminal and said all sides should not inflate the arrogance of terrorists. Beijing has lashed out at any criticism of its policies in Xinjiang, a region in western China that has a large Uyghur population. It has faced international criticism for placing over 1 million Uyghurs in what Beijing calls de-radicalization facilities. China rejects all accusations of mistreatment and denies mass internment. The EU Parliament's Sakharov Prize has been awarded annually since 1988. It honors individuals and organizations defending human rights and fundamental freedoms.
Hong Kong activist Joshua Wong said today that his candidacy in the city's upcoming district elections has been delayed as a result of Electoral Commission's officers facing political pressure.
Wong said that upon submitting application for candidacy in early October, he was asked in a letter from District Officer Dorothy Ma about his political stance, which he replied to. According to Wong, Ma has since fallen ill and been replaced by Laura Liang Aaron.
Within the past 7 days, Ms. Ma didn't contact me at all, reply my letter, or to make the decision to approve my candidacy or not.
Around 450 seats will be up for grabs in the November elections.
If Mrs. Aaron would like to send me any letter, of course, I would love to reply her, just like how I reply Dorothy Ma. But we just crystal clear imply that how the election rules and system in Hong Kong is unfair at all and is still manipulated by Beijing.
Such elections have previously been dominated by pro-Beijing candidates and attracted little fanfare. But the months-long pro-democracy protests have generated greater political awareness in many young people and prompted a record number of candidates and voters to register.
In Madrid today, the remains of Spanish dictator Francisco Franco were removed from a memorial to the fallen of the Spanish Civil War. They're being moved to a private family vault in a state cemetery more than 4 decades after his death.
A helicopter arrived to move the remains of the Spanish dictator. The ceremony took place at the Valley of the Fallen, where 30,000 dead are buried from both sides of the Spanish Civil War. It is marked by a 500-foot stone cross that can be seen from 30 miles away. Spain's socialist government has been pushing for Franco's removal from the cemetery, saying his presence there glorifies the dictator. Franco's descendants fought back, but the Spanish Supreme Court granted permission last month for the government to move Franco's remains. Franco's regime began the Spanish Civil War against the Republican government in 1936. It continued until Franco's nationalist forces won in 1939. Around 500,000 died in the war. Those watching his remains being removed show the country's division on his legacy. They may take him away from here, but they will never take them away from our hearts. We've come from Ciudad Real to see what we can from the exhumation. I'll be pleased with seeing the helicopter carrying him away. The high-security operation was attended by 22 of Franco's descendants, as well as a priest, forensics expert, and Spain's justice minister.
Up next, Ukrainian president commits to peace process despite protests. Many citizens see it as a surrender to Russia. Others see it as necessary to end war. That and more when we return.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled, and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
Ukraine's president reaffirming his commitment to a peace process with Russia yesterday that has rocked Ukraine with protests. Speaking with the creator of the peace process, he said Ukraine will continue to use it. On Wednesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with his German counterpart, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, in Japan. Steinmeier, formerly Germany's foreign minister and now its president, is the creator of the Steinmeier formula. Under the formula, Ukraine will agree to allow democratic elections in Donbas, a region in eastern Ukraine. Donbas has been the site of a 5-year war between Ukraine and Russian-backed separatists. Depending on the outcome, Ukraine might grant Donbas autonomy, but Zelensky says this will only happen if Russian insurgents are removed before the election. Ukraine anticipates working with Germany, France, and Russia in an upcoming summit to end hostilities in Donbas. At the beginning of October, Kiev agreed to the signing of the so-called Steinmeier formula.
While Vladimir Zelensky called it a victory in ending the war, many Ukrainians consider it a surrender to Russia and are protesting.
Opponents of the signing of the Steinmeier formula want first the withdrawal of all Russian assets from the region.
It is not just the introduction of a ceasefire for a week, but the withdrawal of Russian technology from the Russian territory and, of course, the border issue.
This member of parliament from Zelensky's party denies it's a surrender to Russia.
Let's concentrate on unification so that we can create a strong position and achieve results with our enemy.
Opponents of the Steinmeier formula promise to continue protesting until Ukrainian authorities ensure control over the Ukrainian border. Reporting by Anna Varava, NTD News, Kiev, Ukraine. Thousands of Chileans are mounting a movement against inequality in a country once known for being one of the most wealthy and stable regions in Latin America.
Tear gas shots echoed through Chile's capital on Wednesday. Riot police moved in on protesters as a nationwide movement against inequality threatens Chile's gold status in the region. Santiago has been under a military lockdown for 5 straight nights. Officials ordered the curfew to try to quell the unrest. Video obtained by Reuters showed armed police kicking, shoving and hitting people with batons. Other footage shows protesters taunting the police before getting doused with water cannon. Chile is known as one of Latin America's wealthiest and most stable countries. But tens of thousands have taken to the streets after the government hiked up the price of public transport. Chile's billionaire president has apologized and promised social reforms, a guaranteed minimum wage and an increase in the state pension. But the protesters are demanding more. More than 6,000 people have been charged since Saturday. Several people have been killed. But among days of looting, arson and tear gas, rare signs of unity are giving the movement hope. A protester and a police officer shared an emotional embrace at a rally on Monday. Protesters chanted around them, saying the people, united, will never be defeated.
Up next, London's Metropolitan Police release footage of firearms training to Facebook. Hope it will prevent live-stream terrorist attacks. That and more after the break.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
In China, something can be illegal, but still in common practice. For example, bribery, or intellectual property theft, or Uber.
At the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people and counting. I'm a little freaked out that many people have seen my face.
Hey, have you heard of China Uncensored? It's starring me.
It's more and more obvious that China is having a major influence on the U.S.
Hey, have you heard of China Uncensored? 中国揭秘.
In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the only show on TV or the internet. It will be the sole source of edutainment worldwide.
Have you heard of China Uncensored?
Yeah, I have.
You actually have? He's heard of China Uncensored.
I love China Uncensored.
London's Metropolitan Police released footage of firearms training to Facebook. It's part of an initiative to improve detection of live-stream terrorist attacks.
The police force hopes the videos will help Facebook develop technology that can identify such live streams so the social network can tip police off about attacks and prevent them from being broadcast. The force's firearms command regularly train in how to respond to terrorist incidents and hostage situations. Facebook previously came under fire for the spread of a live stream video showing the New Zealand mosque shootings in March.
Attacks in Christchurch in March this year, of course, brought much greater focus into this particular problem. The distress caused to victims and relatives of victims, knowing that this footage is being shared, and therefore a lot more focus after the Christchurch attack.
According to Facebook, the video was viewed less than 200 times during the live broadcast and was watched about 4,000 times before being removed from the platform. The Met Police says the police training footage will also be provided to the UK's Home Office so that it can be shared with other technology companies hoping to develop similar methods.
And the highly anticipated Leonardo da Vinci exhibit at the Louvre opening to the public today. Marking the 500th anniversary of the Italian master's death, the exhibit includes over 160 paintings, sculptures, letters, and drawings from the Renaissance era.
Leonardo. It's supposed to be the biggest, best exhibition on Leonardo that's taken place in an awfully long time.
Da Vinci left his native Italy when his patron died and spent his last years in France as a guest of the French monarch until his death in 1519. A Venetian judge authorized the loan of a few of Da Vinci's drawings, including the famous Vitruvian Man, which will only be shown for 2 months before returning to Italy due to its fragility.
I was looking forward to this exhibition a lot. The 500th anniversary of Leonardo da Vinci, and especially this work, the Vitruvian Man, and I know it was very difficult to bring it to Paris from Venice.
The exhibition will not feature Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, which is viewed by around 30,000 people every day because it could risk overcrowding the space. 260,000 tickets have already been sold for the exhibition, which lasts until February 24th. Up next, an ancient Roman house was brought back to life after 30 years of restoration work. structure was previously buried under volcanic material. That and more when we return.
The lasting beauty of traditional oil painting, realistic style, brilliant, moving, expressive. 2019 NTD Television International Competition for Figure Painting in Oil, guided by truthfulness, kindness, and beauty. We invite you to join us on our journey back to traditional art. Gold Prize Award of $10,000. For more detail, please visit oilpainting.ntdtv.com.
One of Italy's most beautiful and noble Roman houses was brought back into the public eye this week after a 30-year restoration project. The three-story house was originally discovered 200 years after the beginning of the Bourbon monarchy excavations.
The house stands in the archaeological park of Herculaneum, a seaside town that was buried under volcanic material, along with nearby Pompeii when Vesuvius erupted in 79 after death. The chief restorer for the Getty Conservation Institute says the opening of the house marks a great occasion for the whole revival of the site.
It's important because the house, due to structural issues and problems of lack of maintenance in the mid-20th century, has been closed to the public for nearly 30 years.
The House of the Bicentenary is a massive structure of some 2,000 square feet. It also has an internal garden. Inside the house, visitors can see many ancient decorations, such as mosaics, frescoes, and a table made of marble. Restorers will continue to work at the site even after it opens to tourists.
Over the next few months, you'll still see some people working. But the important thing for us, in a site which got forgotten, it got forgotten by humanity in the 1990s, the important thing for us is when places are visited, they stay in the collective memory.
Archaeologists hope to learn even more information from the remains. Their aim is to make sure the treasures of the house can remain on show for decades to come.
Thanks for tuning in. Join us again tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer.